What you're looking at is my 10th birthday present from my owners. Willard held my arm on a table. Irene took a butcher knife and sliced across my wrist 10 different times so that I would always know who owned me.
Jeffrey, when did the sexual abuse stop?
Well, it stopped when I was shipped off to a youth penitentiary.
What was the relationship with your owners at this point?
Silence. We had an agreement.
You've told me that throughout your school years that you were regularly abused by students and or teachers, and that in fact there were occasions where there were teachers who not only witnessed these events but encouraged them. Is that correct?
Well, you'd start at Ridgefield Elementary. A perfect example was a guy named Glenn Zimmerly. He hit me in the head with a baseball bat and knocked me nearly unconscious. He had been told if you hit somebody hard enough, they would die. He was in the 4th or 5th grade, but he couldn't read, so he had to just take people's word for it. A teacher named, what was his name? Gale, Mr. Gale, saw it happen. And I heard him screaming, "Leave it. If it dies, great. And if it doesn't, oh well, back to class." And those were his exact words.
When did you go to junior high, and did the abuse stop there?
No, it got much worse. I went to what was called Shumway Junior High, which is now the Academy of Arts and Sciences, or for the Performing Arts. It's in Vancouver, Washington. That was where I was raped, beaten, had my ribs broken, had one of my teeth kicked out. One of the people that died, the rape was by a kid named David Baines and 2 of his friends. It was in the gym. I was raped and attacked because I'm too small. I didn't weigh 55 pounds in junior high school. I didn't break 100 pounds body weight until after I was 21 years old. So because I was too light to play sports, I was considered subhuman. And because the gym teacher, Mr. Butcher, couldn't stand anything that couldn't play his precious sports, he felt that it was perfectly okay for me to be beaten and raped in front of him. He in fact kicked me in the face and told me to quit screaming like a damn bitch.
As I recall, the next significant event was that you were incarcerated. Can you give me any details of that?
Well, when I became too old to be of any interest to pedophiles, Dr. McElhaney, that guy that owns Columbia View, simply shipped me off to a youth penitentiary. This was the 60s. You could do that. You didn't have to actually commit a crime back then. You just had to have a psychiatrist agree to sign you off saying you're incorrigible, beyond the control of one's parents. And that's all he did. It was a very simple maneuver for him, and it got me out of his way.
Were you abused in any way while you were incarcerated?
No, not at all. It's the first time I ever had an advocate.
You graduated from high school while incarcerated?
Yeah, I will never have like a reunion. I was simply given a diploma from the Washington State Department of Education.
How old were you?
16.
And you received a scholarship?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I was offered a scholarship to UC Berkeley, full academics, everything was paid for, and I was offered one to Columbia.
Why did you not stay in school at that point?
I discovered girls. I had my 17th birthday on campus and made the amazing discovery of sex, girls. And that was the end of campus.
You joined the Army at age 17 and completed basic training at Fort Ord, is that correct?
Yeah, I had already graduated high school, I had already enrolled in college, so I didn't need parental permission for anything, nor would I have wanted it. I joined in, I think it was January of 1972, and went to Fort Ord, I believe July of 72, and did my basic there.
And you were trained as a field wireman?
It's called a 36K20, and what you did is you learned to climb telephone poles, string up telephone lines, and install and maintain switchboards.
Tell me about being denied officer candidate school.
The captain that ran B Battery of the 146th Field Artillery was what you would call a good old boy. He was with his own little social network. I did not fit in. I was spending my time working on a carnival full-time with fantastic traveling shows out of Portland, Oregon, and for 6 years he referred to me as that filthy circus freak, and I kept telling him I work on a carnival. Circus is a different world.
most interesting after all of this, and despite the fact that you have pay stubs to prove that you were in the Army, to this date, they refuse to acknowledge that you were ever in the Army and give you the VA benefits that you're eligible for. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. I have a letter from the Army saying that I was never in the military. I have, on the other hand, a packet of payroll receipts showing that I was paid for 4 years from E2 to E4. I would have mustered out as an E5, which is exactly what I did. And so here's a letter from the military saying, well, we've never heard of you, and here's your payroll to prove that you were there.